Today I'll be discussing Bonanno member Anthony Mirra, but more specifically, the reason he was killed. As most people know, it involved him introducing an undercover FBI agent into the family, which definitely put a nail in his coffin, but there were far more serious clouds hanging over Mirra's head. I came across an FBI report, which I'll share, and even though it was produced by the FBI, it fits into the reasoning for Mirra's demise. So let's get into it. Anthony Mirra, who most people call Tony, was raised on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in Knickerbocker Village, an area, like most New York neighborhoods, where many members and associates of the mob resided. Mirra would live most of his life on 115 Madison Street with his mother Millie, where he eventually opened the bus stop luncheonette on the ground level of his building. Mirra's uncle was Alfred Al Walker Embarato, who would become a Bonanno captain. Initially, Al Walker was around Carmine Galante's crew, and Galante eventually took a liking to Mirra. Mirra's arrest history is extensive and dates back to 1948. He was born in 1927. Most of his arrests involved narcotics and assaults. On June 16, 1953, Mirra, who was known to carry and use a knife, was stabbed himself in a Brooklyn bar. Supposedly, the guy who stabbed him fled the scene with a woman. According to what's known, Mirra had a reputation of talking disrespectful to women, as well as treating them bad, and might have said something to the woman in the bar. In 1960, Mirra was indicted in an 8-count narcotics conspiracy, along with Carmine Galante, John Armento, and others. Galante is said to have run the drug network with his connections in Canada, and would smuggle 10 keys of heroin a month from France into the United States. Mirra's involvement was in the sale of the product. He would be sentenced to 21 years, but an incident that took place during the trial would get him more time. On June 4, 1962, while in court, Mirra was on the witness stand being cross-examined about narcotics dealings, which he adamantly denied. And as the AUSA, the federal prosecutor, was about to refute his claim, Mirra jumped up and threw a chair at the prosecutor. It missed him and instead hit the jury box. Mirra was then restrained by the U.S. Marshals and taken out of the courtroom. Following the incident, the judge ordered a shackled Mirra back into the courtroom and had him gagged as well. Mirra attempted to protest, telling the judge, "Why are you going to gag me for?" During sentencing, which included the new contempt charge for the chair-throwing incident, the judge asked Mirra if he had anything to say. Mirra responded by saying, "Nothing much, Your Honor, except that I am a hothead, period." "Well, I'm sorry for the chair incident, Your Honor. The other things I didn't realize was contemptible." Apparently, Mirra began questioning the judge from the defense table, despite the judge repeatedly telling him to sit down and stop talking. So Mirra ended with, "I was just shooting my mouth off. I didn't realize that was contempt." A psychiatrist who examined Mirra stated that he suffered 2 head injuries during his youth and was rejected by the military for emotional instability. However, it was the judge's opinion that Mirra was pulling a crazy act, so he sentenced him to 21 years plus 2 years for the contempt to run concurrent. During a November 1962 meeting with the FBI, Joe Valachi gave information regarding Mirra. He told the agents that Mirra was not yet a member of the Bonanno family. Mirra had to be released sometime in 1970 because he was involved in shaking down a disco on East 50th Street called Nirvana in late November 1970. In September 1971, an FBI informant echoed Valachi's statement by stating that Mirra was still not a Bonanno member. That same month, Mirra would be stabbed again. The incident took place during a fight with Genovese member Louis Rotundo. Mirra's uncle, Al Walker, wanted Rotundo killed over the stabbing, but Rotundo was very close to Fat Tony Salerno, who naturally took his side. Besides narcotic dealings, Mirra was a very good earner and was involved in extortions and acquiring the businesses that he was strong-arming. In the mid-70s, Mirra and Lefty Ruggiero became part owners of the Chinese Quarter nightclub on East Broadway, the same nightclub where Nai Wang, the leader of the Ghost Shadows, was murdered in 1977. The nightclub was known to law enforcement for selling liquor to minors, as well as narcotics entering the premises. Mirra was under constant watch by the FBI, but apparently, a significant interview took place on September 5, 1974. The interview took place at the FBI's office, and an official document was created. What's most interesting At the top of the document, it's titled Voluntary Appearance. And then beneath that, it states the person's rights, which naturally gives the option to remain silent, as well as the right to speak with a lawyer. The document itself is basically a waiver. And at the bottom of the document, there's no signature. But written beneath is the following. Mirra stated that he understands his rights and is willing to answer questions, but does not wish to sign the form. More to come regarding that document. In 1976, both Mirra and his uncle were inducted into the Bonanno family. Mirra was placed with Michael Zafferano's crew. In and around September 1976, the FBI launched an investigation into the Bonanno family, codenamed Sun Apple. The investigation called for an undercover agent to begin frequenting known hangouts in Little Italy while posing as a jewel thief. That agent turned out to be Joe Pistone, who went by the undercover name Donnie Brasco. And one of the first members of the Bonanno family that Brasco had contact with was Anthony Mirra. According to Pistone, Mirra was not only nasty, but the most intimidating person he's ever met. Mirra is said to have been involved in numerous murders throughout his lifetime. But strangely enough, Mirra introduced Brasco to Lefty Ruggiero, and it's uncertain as to why he would put him around another wise guy in the family, but he did. At the time, and while on federal probation, Mirra argued with his probation officer, complaining that they were being too tough on him. He also failed to turn in his monthly supervision reports to the probation officer. Facing another narcotic indictment, Mirra failed to appear in court on December 5, 1977, and became a fugitive. An official warrant was issued for him on January 9, 1978. While on the lam, Mirra's mother passed away. There are FBI reports of the high-ranking and members of the Bonanno family that attended the wake, but nothing about Mirra being there, as he most likely would have been arrested. Although 3 weeks later, on January 28, 1978, that's exactly what happened. Mirra was arrested in Yonkers, New York, and held with no bail on Rikers Island. He would ultimately be sentenced to 8.5 years to life. And I'm not really sure how he accomplished this, but he was back on the street by February 27, 1981. Zafferano had died of a heart attack the year before in February of 1980, and Mirra, along with Zafferano's son Johnny, took over the pornography empire that he built. Mirra was then placed in Cesare Bonventre's crew. Apparently, while back on the street, Mirra ran into Brasco and took notice that Brasco was making money, so he decided to claim him. This led to arguments between Mirra and Ruggiero. By that point, Ruggiero built a friendship with Brasco and brought him around Sonny Black Napolitano and his crew. This beef Mirra was making became so bad that at one point, Ruggiero told Mirra if Brasco's seen in the car with him, he would shoot him in the head, and if Mirra was in the way, he'd die too. A series of sit-downs took place, ones that reached the Bonanno administration, most likely the family's consigliere, Stevie Canone, who ruled against Mirra, and Brasco remained with Ruggiero. Following that decision, Mirra went and accused Brasco of skimming, which involved a $250,000 heroin deal in which he said Brasco kicked no money up to the family. This led to more sit-downs. Pistone, playing his role as Brasco, told Ruggiero what Mirra was saying wasn't true, and Ruggiero explained that his word didn't count, Mirra's word did. In the end, the Bonanno administration seen through Mirra's bitterness over losing Brasco and didn't believe the whole story. But Mirra had nothing really to complain about. He was making tons of money. The FBI discovered that he kept accounts in 5 different banks around New York and owned stocks in Resorts International, Mary Carter Paint, and the General Host Corporation. He also owned several businesses, some in which he partnered with Bonventre, such as a limousine company, vending machine businesses, bars, lounges, and restaurants. During this time, Galante had already been killed in July 1979, and the Bonanno family was split into 2 factions, one led by Sonny Red and Delicato, Phil Lucky Giacone, and Dominic Trinchera, with the opposing faction being Sonny Black Napolitano and Joe Messino. On April 28, 1981, Mirra was on a recorded line speaking to Giacone, who was at his condo in Fort Lauderdale. Mirra was telling him about a meeting that he had with Sam the plumber de Cavalcante, who he told Giacone was 72 years old but sharp as a tack. Mirra sided with the Sonny Red faction, who was contacting other families to gather support. As we know, it didn't turn out well for the Sunny Red faction, as the three captains were all shot to death on May 5th, 1981. During the same time, Mirra had a falling out with his uncle Al Walker. Walker somehow managed to get his hands on the FBI document, which obviously wasn't good for Mirra. The Sonny Black faction was by no means a fan of Mirra and voiced their opinion to Al Walker. Shortly after, on July 26, 1981, the world for the Bonannos and its members would literally be turned upside down. FBI agents paid a visit to the Motion Lounge in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and pulled Sonny Black to the side. They revealed that Donnie Brasco was actually an undercover agent who infiltrated the family. As a result, in August of 1981, Sonny Black was attending a meeting in Staten Island and was killed. Mirra knew he had a problem when Brasco's true identity was revealed. He began avoiding meeting with other family members and even dyed his gray hair blonde. As for his living situation, he was staying in different places. The only person he trusted was his other relative, Joseph D'Amico, who was also a Bonanno member. On February 18, 1982, D'Amico met Mirra, who was staying at the Independence Plaza on 80 North Moore Street in Manhattan. After leaving the apartment, they went down into the building's parking garage and got into Mirra's gray Volvo. Mirra then drove up to a security gate and was attempting to take a key out when D'Amico shot him several times in the back of his head. D'Amico, who would wind up cooperating, had testified at Joe Messina's trial. According to D'Amico, it was Joe Messina who ordered Mirra's murder, and he specifically had his family members take part in the hit. Besides D'Amico, who after shooting Mirra, walked out of the parking garage and into a getaway car that held Al Walker and Mirra's other cousin, Richard Cantarella. I'd like to quickly mention the super thanks icon found beneath this video in the 3-dot dropdown, put there for anyone who wants to show appreciation for videos like this. Here's the bottom line. Did the Donnie Brasco fiasco, which rhymes, play a major part in Mirra's death? Absolutely 100%. But over and above that, that September 5th, 1974 FBI document, the one Al Walker showed people, sealed Mirra's fate. And one of the biggest questions that still remains is, was Mirra cooperating, and did he know Brasco's true identity?